Welcome to the JPX podcast. I am your host, Jay, and my co host is P. And if you're easily offended, maybe you shouldn't listen to this podcast with your sensitive little self. As this podcast is for entertainment and comedy purposes only, no one was hurt while making this podcast, at least physically.
The JPX podcast.
So I remember when emulators and ROMs were a popular thing because they're still a thing. But when we first discovered them things, and you didn't really need a console to play like Sega games, PlayStation games, Nintendo games, that was an awesome time. You know, now it's illegal and you could get in trouble, allegedly, if you download it. But I loved when the person, whoever discovered that, made that shit, man. Because it brings back a lot of nostalgia when you're like, I want to play a Mario game, but I don't have a Nintendo. You know, you ever played emulators and ROMs?
No, I'm actually the opposite of you. I've always been a legit person when it comes to my media. So I didn't like bootlegs. And that's just for me personally. Like, I know a lot of people that had ROMs, a lot of people that had bootleg CDs, movies, so on and so on. For me, I never got into that.
Yeah, what about the little mini consoles that they released, like over the last, I guess 5 years, like the mini Nintendo,
I didn't get into
mini Sega.
Yeah, I didn't get into any of those. But the funny thing is, you said ROMs are illegal, and they are. But all three console makers, Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, they all use emulation in their own consoles. So they use emulation, for instance, like the Xbox Series X used emulation for its original Xbox games. So that once you put the disc in there, it downloads and plays like an emulated version. Same thing for PlayStation and Nintendo. They use emulation in some way for their older games. So there's a point to it.
They're saying that it's illegal for the basic consumer.
Yes.
Because they want to sell stuff.
Yeah.
I feel if it's like 20 years old or something, why worry about it? Nobody's buying a fucking Mario game. They don't even sell that shit unless you buy it secondhand,
Yeah, well, that's the thing. They want to get a cut, but they're not getting the cut secondhand from resellers, eBay, Amazon, etc.
Exactly. Not yet, at least, because, Nintendo's greedy.
Oh, they're all greedy. All three of them. Do you think that there's ever...
Yeah, I'm boycotting them.
Yeah. Do you ever think that there's going to be a day, and I don't know if it's going to be in our lifetime or after our lifetime, but do you think there's going to be a day where emulation is completely legal as long as it's past a certain time frame?
I think we'll get to that point eventually, especially when these companies with video games aren't really doing video games the way they've been doing them. I just think it's going to take some time. And there's probably a clause in it if you just say you download something and you get in trouble. I don't think you're going to go to jail, especially if it's really old. But yeah, eventually I think it'll be all right.
We shall see. So while video game systems are very much alive today, they're still very popular, video game media can't really say the same thing. So for instance, there are no more, and at least in this country, so it'll be the US where I'm at, no more video game magazines. So there's no more Nintendo Power, no more official Xbox magazine, no more official PlayStation magazine. Those died years ago. Strategy guides come out for the biggest games, but they don't come out for every game like they used to. Obviously, arcades died in the beginning of the 2000s, but game lounges, which were basically places you could go. I remember some of them all, and they had consoles set up where you pay a price and play them, but they're gone. And then a lot of the gaming websites, most of those are down too. Pretty much GameStop is the only dedicated game store. Like, you can still find video games in Target and Walmart for the moment, Best Buy as well, but their sections have shrunk significantly over the years. So GameStop is the only one left. At this point, I think gaming's going to continue, but all the outside media is pretty much done. I think part of that has to do with less plays on YouTube. So with that, you don't really need a strategy guide anymore because you have somebody playing it for you so you can see what's going on. Same thing with magazines. You don't really need the tips from theirs. And as far as the video game stories that you get from the magazine, you just get them on. Well, actually, you can't even get them on the website because those websites are down. But it's just interesting that gaming's alive, but part of it's not alive anymore because we're old enough to remember that. You ever wish some of that stuff would come back?
Yeah. The kids would have a ball if they knew what fucking GameShark was. You remember GameShark?
Yeah, cheat device.
Yeah, I think cheat device. I think that GameStop still has a magazine. I don't know if it's digital though. It might be digital.
GameStop owned Game Informer magazine, and that died over a year ago. Yeah, so their magazine's gone too.
Okay.
hmm
Yeah, and in GameStop said they're going to stop selling games probably. They're going to go all to trading cards eventually.
So,
I read that the other day.
I mean, I don't know if you've been on GameStop's website recently, but along with video games, they're into the trading cards now. Pokemon, baseball cards, and of course pops and action figures. I think they're trying to transition, like they're trying to find a way to stay in business. Like the best example I can give is you remember when MTV started, stands for My TV. Or no, that's not what it said. When MTV started, it was about music videos. Music in general, but like mostly music videos. And then eventually, I'm gonna say what, the early 90s, mid 90s, they transitioned away from music to being a reality TV show network. And the funny thing is, it kept them in business because even though I don't watch anymore, I'm sure MTV is still around and they still have a million different reality TV shows. But they had to do that because I guess they felt like people weren't going to keep watching the channel just to watch music videos. And this is even before YouTube came out, because that wouldn't come out till probably like the early 2000s or mid 2000s. But in the 90s, I guess MTV saw the writing on the wall. They transitioned. So GameStop was trying to do something similar, but they're the last one there is. They're like that last blockbuster video in whatever state that is. GameStop is the last main video game store. Once they're gone, who knows?
Yeah, I think they should also get into the vintage video game systems, like the classic stuff. I think they would do well with like Nintendo stuff, Sega stuff, PlayStation stuff, Game Boy stuff. I think they would do really well with that if they got into that.
They are into that now. Not all the stores, but they have these classic sections and they sell like vintage games. So like you said, basically N64, Genesis, and it's limited still, but they know that there's a market for that. So that's why they jumped into it, but it's not as prevalent as they would like. Basically, if you go on their website, they have a link called Retro Gaming, and then you click on that, you can go to retro video games, the retro consoles, and you can even find a retro store. So it's not all their stores. Some of them you just have to put your location. But looking on here, they go far as back as the Game Boy. You got the Wii U and the GameCube games, and yeah, they got into that. They're like I said, they're trying to find a way with all these brick and mortar stores going out of business because of Amazon and just online in general being cheaper. They're trying to find a way to stay relevant. So they're trying, but it remains to be seen how well that does going forward in the future.
They could also, because everything is going digital, so that's one of the main reasons they're probably getting away from video games. Especially the games. But they could also set up like a arcade type of thing with systems, where people can come and play. Not their demo, but a real things like real PlayStations, real Segas, like a section. You can come play and shit, and hang out like a hookah lounge, but a video game version of it.
Gaming lounge, yes.